The warning lights blinked red across the dashboard as Tyler's cargo hauler drifted through empty space. He slammed his fist against the control panel, and the lights flickered back to amber. Good enough. The ship had been held together by duct tape and prayers for the last 3 months, but it still flew. Barely. Tyler wiped the sweat from his forehead and stared at the massive space station floating in the darkness ahead. It looked dead. No lights, no signals, no movement. Just a giant metal corpse orbiting a planet that had been abandoned decades ago. But the salvage scanner showed valuable tech inside. Enough to pay off at least some of his crushing debts. He needed this score. Badly. The docking clamps screeched as his ship connected to the station's airlock. Tyler grabbed his tool belt, checked his plasma cutter and stepped through the hatch. The air inside was cold enough to see his breath. Emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly green glow. His boots echoed on the metal floor as he walked deeper into the station. Something felt wrong. The place wasn't just abandoned. It had been evacuated in a hurry. Doors hung open. Personal belongings scattered across hallways. A coffee mug still sat on a desk, the contents frozen solid. Tyler's handheld scanner led him toward the cargo bay. That's where the good stuff would be. Ship parts, energy cells, maybe even some weapons he could sell on the black market. He wasn't proud of it, but a man had to eat. He pushed through another doorway and stopped dead in his tracks. This wasn't a cargo bay. It was a prison. Rows of holding cells lined both walls, their doors hanging open like screaming mouths. Most were empty, but the signs of recent occupation were everywhere. Scratch marks on the walls. Dried blood on the floors. Chain restraints still bolted to the ground. Tyler's stomach turned. He'd heard stories about illegal slave trading in the outer reaches, but seeing it up close made his blood boil. Whoever ran this place had been trafficking sentient beings like cattle. He was about to turn around and leave when he heard it. A low, rumbling sound from the far end of the corridor. Like a growl but deeper. More primal. Tyler's hand moved to the small plasma pistol on his hip. Not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. He moved forward slowly, following the sound. The emergency lights flickered as he walked, making shadows dance on the walls. At the end of the corridor stood a massive reinforced door. Maximum security. The kind of door you'd use to hold something extremely dangerous or extremely valuable. Probably both. The control panel beside it was still active, running on backup power. Tyler hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away. To get back on his ship and forget he'd ever been here. But curiosity got the better of him. It always did. He pulled out his multi-tool and started working on the panel. It took him 15 minutes to bypass the security protocols. The door hissed and began to slide open with a groan of protesting metal. The room beyond was dark except for a single spotlight in the center. And beneath that light, chained to the floor like some kind of monster, was her. Tyler had never seen a Vakrian in person before. Only heard stories. Tales of 8-foot-tall warriors with reflexes faster than computer targeting systems. Predators that could tear through combat armor with their bare claws. The kind of aliens humans were taught to fear and respect in equal measure. She was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Silver fur with black stripes covered her powerful frame. Her muscles were clearly defined even through the fur, built like a professional fighter. But it was her face that caught Tyler's attention. Ritual scars marked her cheeks and forehead in patterns he didn't recognize. Her amber eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. She was unconscious but alive. Heavy neural suppressors wrapped around her neck and wrists, the kind designed to keep dangerous prisoners sedated. Gravity restraints pinned her to the floor with enough force to crush a normal person. Whoever had captured her had been absolutely terrified of what she could do if she woke up. Tyler stood there for a long moment just staring. The smart move would be to leave. To pretend he'd never seen this. Getting involved with Vakrian warriors was a good way to end up dead. Their species didn't forgive and they definitely didn't forget. But as he stood there, he couldn't stop thinking about those empty cells. About all the beings who'd been kept here, chained and helpless, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. His father had always told him that the measure of a man wasn't what he did when people were watching. It was what he did when nobody would ever know. Tyler set down his tool bag and got to work. The neural suppressors were military grade, designed to be tamper-proof. But Tyler had spent 10 years fixing broken machinery in the worst parts of the galaxy. If it had circuits, he could crack it. He pulled out his plasma cutter and started carefully burning through the locking mechanisms. As he worked, he talked. It was a habit he'd picked up working alone for so long. "So, you're probably wondering who the idiot is trying to free you," he muttered, focusing on the delicate work. "Name's Tyler. I'm a mechanic. A broke mechanic with terrible luck and even worse decision-making skills. The first suppressor came loose with a hiss of released pressure. Tyler moved to the second one. I'm going to get you out of here, okay? And then you're going to not kill me. We'll call it even. Sound good? No response. She was still unconscious. The second suppressor fell away. Tyler moved to the gravity restraints. These were trickier. They used electromagnetic fields to create crushing pressure. Shutting them down wrong could either kill her instantly or trigger an alarm that would alert whoever owned this station. He wiped sweat from his eyes and made the final connection. The restraints powered down with a low hum. For a moment, nothing happened. Tyler started to relax, thinking maybe she'd need hours to wake up from the sedation. Then her eyes snapped open and he forgot how to breathe. Those amber eyes locked onto him with the focus of a predator spotting prey. In one fluid motion she lunged forward, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. Tyler stumbled backward, raising his hands. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Easy there. I just freed you. She stopped inches from his face, her breath hot against his skin. Up close he could see her fangs. Each one looked sharp enough to tear through steel. Her clawed hands flexed, and Tyler was suddenly very aware of how fragile human bones were. They stayed frozen like that for what felt like an eternity. Tyler's heart hammered in his chest. One wrong move and she could tear him apart before he even felt pain. Then slowly she pulled back. Confusion replaced the rage in her eyes. She looked down at the broken restraints, then back at Tyler. Her voice was rough, like she hadn't used it in weeks. Why? Tyler let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Because nobody deserves to be chained up like an animal. Human, alien, doesn't matter. She tilted her head, studying him like he was some kind of puzzle she couldn't solve. You freed me. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both, Tyler admitted, managing a weak smile. Look, I've got a ship docked on the other side of this station. You look like you could use medical attention and about a week's worth of food. I can help with that. No strings attached. She was quiet for a long moment, those amber eyes never leaving his face. Finally she spoke again. My name is Kira. Was a war guardian of the 7th clan. Tyler, he said, extending his hand before remembering that might not be a universal gesture. Nice to meet you. Even if the circumstances are pretty terrible. Kira looked at his hand, then carefully took it in her much larger one. Her grip was gentle despite the obvious strength behind it. You have done something no one has done for me in many cycles, Tyler the mechanic. You have given me my freedom back. Yeah, well, don't thank me yet. We still need to get off this station before whoever owns it comes back. That's when the alarms started blaring. Tyler's ship rattled as it jumped into hyperspace, leaving the slave station far behind. The alarms had been close, too close. They'd barely made it to the docking bay before the automated defense systems came online. Kira had torn through 3 security drones like they were made of paper while Tyler got the engines running. Now they were safe, at least for the moment. Kira sat in the cargo bay, her massive frame making the space look smaller than it was. Tyler had given her water, protein bars, and a medical kit. She downed 4 bottles of water in seconds and was now carefully cleaning her wounds with supplies that were clearly meant for someone much smaller. Tyler leaned against the doorway watching her work. In the better lighting of his ship, he could see just how badly she'd been treated. Scars covered her arms and shoulders, some old, some fresh. Her silver fur was matted in places with dried blood. But despite everything, she moved with a grace that reminded him of professional dancers. Every motion had purpose, efficiency. You need help with that? Tyler asked, gesturing to a nasty gash on her shoulder blade that she couldn't quite reach. Kira paused, then nodded once. Tyler grabbed the medical supplies and approached carefully. Even injured and exhausted, she radiated danger. He'd seen house cats that were less intimidating, and she was about 5 times the size. As he cleaned the wound, Kira spoke. Her voice was rough but steady. You fight well for a mechanic. The way you moved during our escape. That was military training. Tyler's hands hesitated for just a second before continuing. Used to be in the service. Long time ago. Why did you leave? Because they asked me to do something I couldn't live with. Tyler sealed the wound with synthetic skin. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Kira nodded, respecting the boundary. I understand. Honor matters. Even when it costs everything. Over the next few days they fell into an uneasy routine. Tyler worked on his ship, which always needed repairs. Kira recovered, her incredible biology healing wounds that would have killed a human. She watched him constantly, studying his every move with those intense amber eyes. It made Tyler nervous at first. like being studied by a very large, very dangerous predator. But as time passed, he realized she wasn't looking at him like prey. She was trying to figure him out like he was some kind of puzzle that didn't make sense. On the third day, Tyler was elbow-deep in the engine compartment, cursing at a failing power coupling, when Kira appeared beside him. He nearly jumped out of his skin. "Geez, you're like a giant ninja. Can you not sneak up on people?" "I was not sneaking. You were simply not paying attention." She tilted her head. "You talk to your ship." "Yeah, well, she's temperamental. She works better when I'm nice to her." Tyler went back to his repairs. "Besides, when you spend most of your time alone, you start talking to things. Tools, ships, sometimes random pieces of equipment. That is not normal for humans?" "Probably not. But I stopped worrying about normal a long time ago." Kira was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Tyler pause. "I need to tell you something about my people. About what it means that you freed me." Tyler wiped his hands on a rag and gave her his full attention. Something in her tone said this was important. Kira settled onto the floor, her tail curling around her feet. "Among my people there is an ancient tradition. The bonding of a war guardian. We are not just soldiers. We are protectors, chosen to defend those worthy of our service." "Okay," Tyler said slowly. "What does that have to do with me?" "Everything." Kira's amber eyes locked onto his. "A war guardian bonds with someone who demonstrates extraordinary courage, someone who acts with honor when they could choose otherwise. The bond is not a choice we make consciously. It is something deeper. Biological. Instinctual." Tyler felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Kira, what are you saying?" "I am saying that since you freed me, I have felt something I have never felt before. An urge to stay near you. To protect you. To place myself between you and any threat." She looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "I fought against it at first. War guardians bond with heroes, with leaders, with those who shape the fate of worlds. Not with mechanics who talk to their tools. Hey now, don't knock talking to tools. It's a valid coping mechanism. But I cannot deny what my instincts tell me." Kira's voice grew softer. "You freed me when it would have been safer to walk away. You expect nothing in return. You share your limited resources without hesitation. You treat me with respect despite knowing what I am capable of. These are the signs our ancestors taught us to recognize." Tyler ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what she was telling him. "So what, you're stuck with me now? That doesn't seem fair to you." "It is the highest honor my people can give. But I understand if you do not want this burden." "Burden?" Tyler shook his head. "Kira, you're not a burden. I'm just saying you should have a choice. You shouldn't be forced into anything because of biology or tradition or whatever." Kira's expression shifted, something almost like surprise crossing her features. "You would refuse a war guardian?" "Most species would see it as the greatest gift possible." "I'm not most species. I'm a broke mechanic with a ship that barely flies and debts that'll probably get me killed eventually." Tyler met her gaze steadily. "You deserve freedom. Real freedom. Not just trading one set of chains for another." For a long moment, Kira just stared at him. Then, to his complete shock, she laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that seemed to come from her chest. "You truly do not understand, do you? A war guardian's bond is not slavery. It is partnership. I choose to protect you, Tyler. Not because I must, but because you are worthy of protection." "I'm really not. Trust me on that. Let me be the judge of that." Kira stood, towering over him. "I will tell you about my clan. About what happened to them. Then you will understand why your actions mean more than you know." She explained how her clan had been defending a refugee settlement when the slavers attacked. The refugees were from a species called the Viridians, peaceful people who had no alliance with the Vakrians. No treaty, no mutual defense pact. Just desperate people fleeing war. "My matriarch decided we would help them," Kira continued. "Many questioned this choice. What did we owe these strangers? But she said that honor is not about what we owe. It is about what is right." Tyler listened as Kira described the battle. How her clan held off the slavers for 3 days, giving the refugees time to escape. How they fought until the last warrior fell. Kira had only survived because she'd been sent to hunt down the slaver leadership, hoping to stop the attack at its source. "When I returned, everyone was gone. Dead or captured." Kira's voice was hollow. "I failed them. I failed my matriarch. And then the slavers took me. They knew what I was, what I could do. So they locked me away in that station, waiting to sell me to someone who wanted their own personal war beast." "I'm sorry," Tyler said quietly. "That's a lot to carry. But then you came. A human mechanic who owed me nothing, who had everything to lose, and you freed me anyway. Do you understand? You did exactly what my clan died doing. You helped someone for no reason except that it was the right thing to do. Tyler was quiet, uncomfortable with the weight she was placing on his simple choice. Finally he said, I just couldn't leave you there. That's all. That is everything. Kira placed a massive hand on his shoulder, gentle despite her strength. I have chosen you, Tyler. Whether you accept that or not, I will protect you. It is who I am now. Tyler looked up at her, seeing the determination in those amber eyes. He realized arguing would be pointless. And honestly, having someone watching his back didn't sound terrible. The galaxy was a dangerous place for a mechanic with more depth than sense. Okay, he said finally. But we're partners then. Equals. None of this master and servant stuff. Kira's expression softened, something almost like a smile crossing her features. Agreed. Partners. They shook on it, his small hand engulfed in her massive one. Tyler had no idea what he was getting into, but something told him his quiet life of salvage runs and staying under the radar was about to get a lot more complicated. He had no idea how right he was. Port Avernus looked like every other frontier station Tyler had visited. Dirty, crowded, and full of people trying to avoid questions about their past. Perfect for selling salvage without too much paperwork. He guided his ship into docking bay 17, feeling the familiar clunk as the magnetic locks engaged. Stay here, Tyler told Kira as he gathered his salvage manifest. Port security gets nervous around Vakrians. No offense, but you're kind of intimidating. Kira's tail flicked in annoyance. I do not like you going alone. I'll be fine. This is just a business transaction. In and out, then we're gone. Tyler grabbed his worn jacket. Besides, you need to stay with the ship. Someone has to make sure nobody steals her. Kira didn't look happy, but she nodded. Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that leaving her behind was a mistake, but bringing an 8-foot-tall war guardian to a business meeting seemed like a worse idea. The salvage broker's office was in the lower levels of the station, where the lights flickered and the air smelled like recycled sweat and machine oil. Tyler knew the route by heart. He'd been selling to the same broker for 3 years, ever since his debts started piling up. But when he walked through the door, it wasn't the usual broker sitting behind the desk. It was someone much worse. Vince Harlow. The syndicate's head enforcer for this sector. A massive man with scars across his bald head and cybernetic enhancements that made him twice as strong as any normal human. Behind him stood 4 armed guards, all wearing the syndicate's colors. Tyler's blood turned to ice. Where's Danny? Danny doesn't work here anymore. Vince's voice sounded like gravel in a blender. We're consolidating operations. All independent brokers are now under syndicate management. Right. Well, I'll just take my salvage somewhere else then. Tyler turned to leave. Sit down, Miller. The way Vince said it wasn't a request. Tyler slowly turned back and sat in the chair across from the desk. His mind raced through escape routes, but the guards had positioned themselves perfectly. He wasn't getting out without a fight, and that was a fight he'd lose. Vince pulled up a holographic display. Tyler's financial records floated in the air between them, highlighted in angry red numbers. You owe the syndicate 47,000 credits. Payment was due 6 months ago. I've been making payments. Every month just like we agreed. The agreement was with Danny. Danny's gone. New management means new terms. Vince leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. Full payment. 1 week. Or we collect in other ways. Tyler's hands clenched into fists under the table. I don't have that kind of money. You know I don't. That's why we had a payment plan. Not my problem. You've got 7 days, Miller. After that, we take the ship. And if the ship doesn't cover it, we take you. There's always a market for humans in the outer colonies. Especially ones with your skill set. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Tyler had heard the stories about what happened to people the syndicate sold. Work camps, illegal mining operations, places where people went in and never came out. You can't do this. We had a deal. Vince smiled, showing teeth that had been sharpened to points. Deals change. 7 days, Miller. Don't make me come looking for you. The guards escorted Tyler out of the office. His legs felt like rubber as he walked through the station's corridors, his mind spinning. 47,000 credits. He'd need a dozen major salvage scores to make that kind of money, and he didn't have 7 days. He had 7 days before everything fell apart. Kira was waiting when he returned to the ship. She took one look at his face and her ears flattened against her skull. What happened? Tyler slumped into the pilot's chair and told her everything. About the debt he'd accumulated buying medical supplies for a refugee colony 3 years ago. About how children were dying from a preventable plague while the Galactic Council argued over jurisdiction and trade rights. About how he'd used every credit he had and then borrowed more to get them what they needed. "I'd do it again," Tyler said quietly. "But yeah, I'm basically screwed now." Kira was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight with barely controlled anger. "They will enslave you. For helping others. That's how the galaxy works. Good deeds don't pay the bills." "No." Kira's eyes blazed with fury. "This is not how anything should work. You saved lives. You sacrificed your future for people who meant nothing to you. This is exactly what my clan died doing. This is exactly why I chose you." Tyler looked up at her, surprised by the intensity in her voice. "Kira, it's not the same thing. Your clan fought against impossible odds for something meaningful. I just bought some medicine and made stupid financial decisions. You gave everything for those who had nothing. That is the definition of honor in my culture." Kira began pacing, her tail lashing. "And now these criminals threaten you for it? This cannot stand. What are we going to do? Fight the entire syndicate? They've got hundreds of enforcers, connections across a dozen systems. We're just two people with a broken ship." Kira stopped pacing and looked at him with those fierce amber eyes. "You are not just anything, Tyler. And neither am I. We will find a way." That night, while Tyler tried to sleep, Kira did something she'd been avoiding since their conversation days earlier. She performed the full rite of choosing. Tyler woke to find her in the cargo bay, surrounded by ritual candles she'd made from ship supplies. Her right hand was bleeding, the blood pooling in her palm. She spoke in her native language, words that sounded ancient and powerful. Then she raised her clawed hand to her face and drew 3 deliberate lines across her left cheek, mixing ash with the blood. "Kira, what are you doing?" She turned to face him, the fresh cuts stark against her silver fur. "Making permanent what my heart already knows. I am bound to you, Tyler. In the old way. The way my ancestors bound themselves to those worthy of protection. You cut yourself. You're bleeding everywhere." Tyler grabbed the medical kit, but Kira stopped him. "The scars must remain. They tell others what I am. Who I have chosen." Her voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. "Among my people these marks are sacred. They proclaim that I am Kira, War Guardian, bonded to Tyler Miller, protector of the helpless, helper of the hopeless. I don't want you bound to me like this. You should be free. I am free. Free to choose my path, and I choose this." Kira knelt so she was at eye level with him. "You freed me when you gained nothing. You showed me kindness when you had every reason to be afraid. You carry the debts of saving others while expecting no reward. These are the signs of worthiness my people have recognized for thousands of years." Tyler wanted to argue, but the determination in her eyes stopped him. This wasn't slavery or obligation. This was her choice made freely. Fighting it would be disrespecting that choice. "Okay," he said finally. "But if we're doing this bonding thing, then you need to let me patch up those cuts. Sacred or not, I'm not letting you get an infection." Kira's expression softened into something that might have been a smile. "As you wish, my friend." They were cleaning her wounds when the explosion rocked the ship. The docking bay alarm screamed to life. Through the viewport, Tyler saw Vince Harlow and a dozen heavily armed syndicate soldiers advancing toward their ship. They weren't here to collect the debt. They were here to collect him. 7 days, Tyler muttered. The man said 7 days. Apparently he lied. Kira was already moving, grabbing weapons from the storage locker. She tossed Tyler a plasma pistol. "Can you fight?" "If I have to." "Good. Because we are about to have to." Kira's lips pulled back, showing her fangs. The fresh scars on her face made her look even more dangerous. "They threaten my bonded. They will learn why that is a fatal mistake." Tyler checked his pistol and took a deep breath. His quiet life of salvage runs was definitely over. But as he looked at Kira, warrior scars fresh on her face, ready to fight impossible odds at his side, he realized something. Maybe having a war guardian wasn't such a bad thing after all. The cargo ramp lowered and chaos erupted. The firefight at Port Avernus lasted exactly 8 minutes. That's all it took for Kira to tear through half of Vince's soldiers while Tyler provided covering fire and set traps using maintenance equipment. They escaped with bullet holes in the hull and a bounty on both their heads that would make every mercenary in 3 sectors come hunting. Tyler piloted the limping ship away from the station, his hands shaking on the controls. "Well, that went badly. We survived. That is what matters." Kira was checking her injuries, mostly minor cuts and burns. Her healing factor was already working, the wounds closing before Tyler's eyes. Yeah, but now we're wanted criminals. The syndicate put out a 50,000 credit bounty. That's more than my actual debt. Tyler pulled up the bounty notice on his screen. His face stared back at him along with Kira's profile. Wanted for theft, assault, and destruction of syndicate property. Great. Where do we go? Tyler thought for a moment, then plotted a course. The Frontier Rim. It's about as far from syndicate space as we can get without leaving the civilized galaxy entirely. Lots of small colonies out there, people who don't ask too many questions. Over the following weeks they fell into a new rhythm. Tyler would take odd jobs fixing equipment for frontier settlements, things too small or remote for legitimate repair companies to bother with. Kira would provide security, her presence alone enough to discourage most trouble. Word spread quickly about the human mechanic and his Vacrian partner, and surprisingly people started seeking them out. Their first real job came from a farming colony on Hendrix 4. The settlement's water purification system had broken down, and the nearest replacement parts were 3 weeks away by standard shipping. Tyler arrived to find 200 colonists rationing water in the middle of a drought. He worked for 16 hours straight, rebuilding the system using spare parts and sheer stubbornness. When the clean water finally started flowing, the colonists offered him twice what he'd asked for. Tyler only took his original price. You should have taken the extra credits, Kira said as they left. We need the money. They need it more. Did you see those kids? Some of them were already showing signs of dehydration. Tyler shook his head. I can't take money from people who are struggling. Kira studied him with those amber eyes. This is why you are in debt, is it not? You help others when you should be helping yourself. Maybe. But I sleep better this way. Their next job was protecting a small mining operation from raiders. Kira handled most of the fighting while Tyler rigged defensive systems using mining equipment. The raiders took one look at an angry Vacrian war guardian and decided easier targets existed elsewhere. Then came a distress call from a research station studying exotic plant life. Their environmental controls had failed, and without them years of research would die within days. Tyler fixed the system while teaching the researchers how to maintain it properly. They paid him in rare seeds worth 10 times his fee on the black market. Tyler gave the seeds back, saying the research was more important. Job by job, colony by colony, their reputation grew. People called them the mechanic and the guardian. Some stories were accurate. Others were wildly exaggerated. Tyler heard one tale about how he'd rebuilt an entire starship using only a wrench and determination. Another claimed Kira had fought off 100 pirates single-handedly. That one's only half wrong, Kira commented when Tyler told her. It was 63 pirates, not 100. During their travels, Kira began teaching Tyler how to fight properly. Not the basic combat training he'd gotten in the military, but Vacrian martial arts designed for close-quarters combat. Your species is fragile, Kira explained during one training session. But you are also flexible in ways mine is not. Use that. Be unpredictable. Tyler learned fast. He had to. The bounty on their heads meant trouble found them regularly. Bar fights, ambushes, the occasional bounty hunter stupid enough to think catching them would be easy. Tyler's best weapon became his creativity. He'd use the environment, improvise traps, turn everyday objects into weapons. One night, sitting around a campfire on a colony world whose name Tyler couldn't pronounce, Kira opened up about her past. My clan was called the Seventh Spears, she said, staring into the flames. We were not the largest or the strongest, but we were known for our honor. My matriarch believed that strength without purpose was just violence. Sounds like a wise leader. She was. When the Viridian refugees came to our territory fleeing from war, many clans turned them away. Why risk Vacrian lives for strangers? But my matriarch said that honor is not about what is convenient. It is about what is right. Kira described how they'd built shelters for the refugees, shared their food stores, taught them to defend themselves. When the slavers came hunting for easy prey, the Seven Spears stood between them and the Viridians. We held them off for 3 days. Long enough for the refugees to escape to safe territory. But the cost was everyone I knew. My matriarch died holding the main gate. My brothers and sisters fell one by one, fighting to the last breath. Tyler listened quietly, hearing the pain in her voice even after all this time. I was not there for the end, Kira continued. I had been sent to track down the slaver leadership, to cut off the head of the snake. When I returned, all I found were bodies and burned buildings. The Viridians escaped. My clan succeeded in their mission. But I failed to protect them. You didn't fail. You did what they asked you to do. Logic says you are correct. My heart says otherwise. Kira looked at him across the fire. But then I met you. And I finally understood what my matriarch tried to teach me. What's that? That helping others is never a failure, even when it costs everything. You carry debts for saving children you will never meet. You fix problems for people who cannot pay you properly. You risk your life for strangers because it is the right thing to do. Kira's voice grew stronger. This is what my clan died for. This is what guardians do. And I am beginning to think this is what humans do. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. I'm not special, Kira. Most humans would have walked past you in that station. I just got lucky with a decent conscience. I do not believe in luck. I believe you are exactly who you appear to be. Someone who leaves every place better than they found it, even when it costs them everything. They sat in comfortable silence after that, watching the stars come out. Tyler thought about the children on Hendrix 4 drinking clean water, the researchers whose life's work was saved, the miners who could work without fear. Small things maybe. But they added up. 3 months into their new life, everything changed with a single distress call. Tyler was replacing a power relay on some backwater station when his communicator picked up an emergency broadcast. A human research facility was under attack. The message was broken, filled with static and screaming, but certain words came through clearly. Slavers. Overwhelmed. Please help. Tyler's blood went cold. He knew that facility. They studied treatments for genetic diseases, working on cures for conditions that affected thousands of people across the galaxy. If the slavers captured their research, it would disappear into the black market, out of reach for anyone who couldn't afford to pay criminal prices. We have to help them, Tyler said, already plotting a course. Kira looked at the data. The facility is 2 days away at maximum speed. By the time we arrive, it may be too late. Then we'll arrive too late. But we have to try. Tyler, this could be a trap. The syndicate knows we respond to distress calls. They could be using this to lure us in. Tyler met her eyes. I know. But if there's even a chance those people need help, we have to go. I can't just ignore it. Kira was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. You are going regardless of what I say, are you not? Yeah, I am. Then I suppose it is fortunate that war guardians do not abandon their bonded, even when they make foolish decisions. But there was no anger in her voice. If anything, she sounded proud. We go together. Partners. Partners? Tyler agreed. As they prepared the ship for departure, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that this was different from their other jobs. Bigger. More dangerous. The kind of situation that people didn't walk away from. But he'd never been good at walking away. The research facility hung in space like a wounded animal, emergency lights flickering across its damaged hull. Tyler's scanner showed 3 syndicate assault ships docked to the main airlock. His stomach twisted into knots. They'd arrived too late to prevent the attack, but maybe not too late to help. Life signs? Tyler asked, his fingers flying across the controls. Kira studied the readouts. 47 humans still alive. Concentrated in the central lab. The slavers are rounding them up. How many hostiles? 20, maybe 30? Military-grade weapons. This is a professional operation. Kira's tail lashed with agitation. Tyler, we are outgunned and outnumbered. A tactical withdrawal would be wise. Tyler thought about those 47 people huddled in that lab, terrified, waiting for someone to save them. He thought about the research they were doing, cures for diseases that killed children. He thought about walking away and living with that choice for the rest of his life. I can't leave them. Kira sighed, but she was already checking her weapons. I know. That is why I already calculated our best entry point. We dock at the secondary airlock, avoid the main force and work our way to the lab from below. You're okay with this? These aren't good odds. I am bonded to you, Tyler Miller. Where you go, I go. Even into certain death. She showed her fangs in what might have been a smile. Besides, I have fought worse odds. They docked quietly, cutting their engines to avoid detection. The station's corridors were dark except for emergency lighting. Bodies lay scattered in the hallways, station security who tried to fight back. Tyler forced himself to keep moving, to not think about the lives lost. They were 3 levels from the lab when Kira suddenly stopped, her ears flat against her skull. Ambush. They know we are here. The words barely left her mouth before the corridor exploded with gunfire. Tyler dove behind a support beam while Kira charged forward, moving faster than anything her size should move. Her claws found throats, her strength sending armed soldiers flying like toys. But there were too many. Tyler took down 3 with careful shots, using his military training to make every bullet count. Kira fought like a demon, but even war guardians had limits. A plasma bolt caught her shoulder, spinning her around. Another hit her leg. Kira. Tyler's voice cracked with fear. I'm fine. Keep moving. But she wasn't fine. Tyler could see her limping, see the blood matting her silver fur. They fought their way to the lab entrance, leaving unconscious and wounded soldiers in their wake. Tyler's plasma pistol was overheating, his hands shaking from adrenaline. Kira was breathing hard, more injuries visible across her body. The lab door opened and Tyler's heart sank. It was a trap. Of course it was a trap. The researchers were there, tied up and guarded by more soldiers. But sitting in the center of the room, looking completely relaxed, was someone Tyler recognized from intelligence briefings during his military days. Victoria Kane. The Syndicate's most ruthless commander. A woman who'd built her reputation on brutal efficiency and complete lack of mercy. She smiled when she saw them, her cold blue eyes calculating. Tyler Miller. And the famous war guardian. How predictable. Victoria stood, casually adjusting her expensive suit. I've been hunting you for months. Do you know how much trouble you've caused? Colonies refusing to pay protection money because they think you'll save them. Criminals getting brave because they heard about Port Avernus. Good, Tyler said, keeping his pistol trained on her. The galaxy needs less people like you. Bold words from a man with an empty gun. Victoria nodded to her soldiers. The power cell indicator on your pistol has been red for the last 30 seconds. And your pet guardian is barely standing. Tyler glanced at Kira. She was swaying on her feet, her wounds too severe even for her healing factor to handle quickly. Blood dripped steadily onto the floor. Let the researchers go, Tyler said. Your problem is with me. Oh, we're taking them too. Smart people are valuable. But you're right, my main interest is you. Or rather, her. Victoria's eyes fixed on Kira. Do you know what a bonded war guardian is worth? Collectors across the galaxy would pay fortunes for such a rare creature. Especially one with those traditional bonding scars. Kira's growl was pure fury. I am not property. Everything is property with the right price tag. Victoria signaled her soldiers. Take them both. Non-lethal force. I want them intact. The soldiers advanced with stun weapons. Tyler knew they were beaten. His gun was empty, Kira could barely stand, and 30 armed soldiers surrounded them. This was how it ended. Captured, sold, separated forever. Then Kira did something Tyler had never seen before. Her eyes changed, pupils dilating until they were almost black. Her breathing slowed, becoming deep and rhythmic. The wounds across her body stopped bleeding as her muscles tensed. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Guardian's transcendence. Oh hell, one of the soldiers muttered. She's going into bonded rage. Fall back. But it was too late. Kira moved like lightning wrapped in fury. She tore through the soldiers with terrifying precision, each strike calculated for maximum impact. These weren't the movements of someone injured and exhausted. This was something primal, something ancient. Tyler had read about Guardian's transcendence in military files, a state where bonded Vakrians became nearly unstoppable when their chosen person was threatened. Reading about it and seeing it were completely different things. Soldiers flew through the air. Weapons were torn apart. Kira took bullets that should have dropped her and kept moving, kept fighting, kept putting herself between Tyler and every threat. She was magnificent and terrifying, a force of nature in fur and claws. Victoria backed toward the exit, her confidence finally cracking. Kill her. I don't care about the bounty anymore, just kill her. The soldiers switched to lethal ammunition. Plasma bolts and armor-piercing rounds filled the air. Some missed. Too many didn't. Kira's silver fur turned red with blood, but she kept fighting. Kept protecting. Because that's what war guardians did. Tyler watched in horror as Kira took a plasma bolt meant for him. Then another. She stumbled but remained standing, placing herself between him and Victoria's soldiers like a living shield. Kira, stop. You're going to die. Better me than you. Her voice was strained but determined. Guardian protects. Always. Something broke inside Tyler. Not fear or panic, but something colder. More focused. He'd spent years trying to be peaceful, to fix things instead of breaking them. But watching Kira sacrifice herself for him awakened something he'd buried after leaving the military. Tyler Miller hadn't always been a mechanic. He moved with sudden purpose, grabbing a fallen soldier's rifle. His hands remembered training from a lifetime ago, muscle memory taking over. He'd been special operations once, before his discharge. Before he'd refused to follow an order that would have killed civilians. The soldiers focused on Kira never saw him coming. Tyler moved through the chaos like a ghost, each shot precise and controlled. He wasn't trying to kill, but he wasn't being gentle either. Targeting weapons, joints, anything that would take soldiers out of the fight without permanent damage. His movements were economical, efficient, nothing wasted. Victoria saw him coming and ran. Tyler let her go, more concerned with the soldiers still threatening Kira. Within minutes, the lab was secure, soldiers unconscious or fleeing. Kira collapsed, the transcendence fading. Tyler caught her before she hit the ground, struggling under her weight. She was heavy, all muscle and dense bone, but he refused to let her fall. "Hey, stay with me. Come on, Kira. Stay with me." Her amber eyes found his, clouded with pain. "Did we win?" "Yeah, we won. The researchers are safe." "You did it? Good." She coughed, blood on her lips. "Tyler, I am sorry. I think I will not survive this." "Don't talk like that. I'm going to fix you. That's what I do, remember? I fix things." Tyler's voice cracked. He was already scanning her wounds, his mechanical mind cataloging injuries. Plasma burns across her torso. Bullet wounds in her shoulder and leg. Internal bleeding. Too much damage. But Tyler Miller had spent his life fixing impossible problems with inadequate tools. He worked frantically, using medical supplies from the lab, improvising solutions with equipment never meant for Vacrian biology. The researchers helped, their medical knowledge combined with Tyler's mechanical precision. They stabilized the worst injuries, sealed the plasma burns, stopped the internal bleeding. Hours passed in a blur. Tyler's hands moved on autopilot, refusing to accept that Kira might die. She'd given everything to protect him. He would not let that sacrifice be wasted. Finally, her vital signs stabilized. Not good, but no longer critical. Tyler slumped against the wall, exhausted. His hands were covered in Kira's blood, his shirt soaked through with sweat. One of the researchers, an older woman with kind eyes, touched his shoulder. "We need to evacuate. More syndicate ships could arrive." "Can she be moved?" "With care, yes. But she needs proper medical attention. Vacrian medical attention." Tyler nodded, too tired to speak. They rigged a stretcher and carried Kira to his ship. The researchers followed, no longer prisoners but allies. As they prepared for departure, long-range sensors picked up incoming ships. Not syndicate vessels. Vacrian warships. The lead ship hailed them, and a fierce Vacrian face appeared on screen. "I am Matriarch Sela of the Fifth Spears. We detected a Guardian's transcendence signal. Who carries one of our bonded?" Tyler explained everything while they jumped to hyperspace, the Vacrian ships escorting them. Kira remained unconscious in the medical bay, her breathing shallow but steady. Days later, on a Vacrian medical station, Tyler sat beside Kira's recovery pod. The Vacrian doctor said she would survive, that her body was already healing itself with proper treatment. The Matriarch Council had come personally to meet the human who'd earned a War Guardian's bond. They offered him everything. Citizenship, wealth, honor among their people. Tyler declined it all except one thing: help freeing other enslaved beings across the sector. The matriarchs agreed, fascinated by this human who understood that strength wasn't about domination. When Kira finally woke, Tyler was there. Her eyes found his immediately, and something like relief crossed her features. "You saved me," she said softly. "You saved me first. I just returned the favor." Tyler managed a tired smile. "Partners, remember?" Kira's clawed hand found his, gentle despite her strength. "Partners. Always." They left the Vacrian station together weeks later, aboard Tyler's patched-up ship. The matriarchs had provided resources, but Tyler and Kira remained as they'd always been. Two people trying to make the galaxy slightly less terrible, one impossible situation at a time. The bounty on their heads had tripled. Stories about them spread across a dozen systems. But Tyler didn't care about fame or fortune. He had his ship, his tools, and his partner. A war guardian who'd chosen him not for what he could give her, but for who he was. And really, what more could a mechanic ask for?